Acidic.
Being sour to the taste. For example, some fruit juices taste a bit acidic. Another example, the sauce contributes a sweetly acidic note, bridging the two.
Bitter.
Having a sharp, pungent taste or smell, not sweet. For example, the medicine had a slightly bitter taste. Another example, that tree is so big even if there are fruits. They are small and bitter.
Burnt.
Ruined by overcooking. For example, I burnt my tongue on some soup last night. Another example, I like medium well steak. Just this side of burnt.
Buttery.
Resembling or containing or spread with butter. For example, oxtail soup and buttery toast and jelly for afters. Another example, the pancake dessert is great with honey or buttery.
Cheesy.
Like cheese in taste, smell, or consistency. For example, I want sausage rolls or cheesy biscuits. Another example, I am thinking about the pumpkin pie with cheesy topping right now.
Citrusy.
Characteristic of citrus fruit in taste, scent, or color. For example, some find the citrusy scent of lemon to be soothing. Another example, it is a citrusy soda base, mixed with a little milk.
Creamy.
Thick like cream. For example, stir the mixture until it looks creamy. Another example, this soup has a lovely creamy texture.
Eggy.
Tasting or smelling of eggs. For example, the cake batter should be thick and slightly eggy. Another example, compared to takoyaki, akishiyaki has a softer, more eggy texture.
Fiery.
Very intense. For example, a fiery combination of chicken, chilies, and rice is really delicious. Another example, the familiar aroma of fiery red chili peppers assaults your senses.
Ripe.
Fully developed or matured and ready to be eaten or used. For example, a green banana is not ripe enough to eat. Another example, make sure the plums are fully ripe before you eat them.
Fishy.
Resembling fish. For example, Arsini in high concentrations has a garlic or fishy smell. Another example, the crab left too much of a fishy aftertaste.
Flavorful.
Full of flavor. For example, the cookies come flavorful chocolate. Another example, spices are often what really make foods both interesting and flavorful.
Fresh.
Recently made, produced, or harvested. For example, finish the meal with a piece of fresh watermelon. Another example, this meat is not very fresh.
Fried.
Cooked by frying in fat. For example, he fried the eggs in a frying pan. Another example, I like the chicken fried steaks.
Herbal.
Relating to herbs? For example, this herbal medicine will soon clear up your cold. Another example, she loves to drink herbal teas.
Hot.
having a high degree of heat or a high temperature. For example, I like a hot chocolate drink at bedtime. Another example, this coffee is not hot enough.
Juicy.
Full of juice. For example, the pineapple was sweet and juicy. Another example, summer is a pleasant season for all kinds of cold foods and juicy fruits.
Lemony.
Tasting sour like a lemon. For example, this drink had a very sharp lemony taste. Another example, the salad dressing was too lemony.
Roasted.
Cooked by dry heat in an oven. For example, he roasted a chicken for dinner. Another example, peanuts roasted, boiled, fried and brittled are all delicious.
Minty.
Having the flavor or aroma of mint. For example, very minty aroma with a smooth, light apple flavor. Another example, I loved the fresh minty ice cream taste.
Moist.
Slightly wet. For example, the pork was grainy and moist, not bland or dry. Another example, store cookies in an airtight container to stay moist and chewy.
Peppery.
Having the piquant burning taste of peppers? For example, this heavy chili has a sharp peppery flavor. Another example, this soup noodles is too peppery for my taste.
Pickled.
Preserved in a pickling liquid. For example, there is any pickled cucumber in the kitchen. Another example, serve the soup noodle warm or cold with pickled kimchi.
Plain.
Not decorated or elaborate, simple or ordinary in character. For example, serve with plain boiled rice and miso soup. Another example, the hot dog is plain.
Rancid.
Smelling of fermentation or staleness. For example, there was a rancid smell coming from the kitchen. Another example, the oats looked firm and fresh, but were rancid.
Raw.
Not treated with heat to prepare it for eating. For example, raw meat must be kept separate from cooked meat. Another example, this fish is often eaten raw.
Refreshing.
Imparting vitality and energy. For example, the water was cold and wonderfully refreshing. Another example, there is nothing as refreshing as orange juice.
Rotten.
Damaged by decay, hence unsound and useless. For example, the cheese is starting to go rotten. Another example, the apples went rotten very quickly.
Rubbery.
Difficult to chew. For example, the meat was a little rubbery. Another example, the steak was overcooked and rubbery.
Salty.
Containing or filled with salt. For example, this bacon and egg are too salty for me. Another example, the soup had a very salty taste.
Savory.
Belonging to the category that is salty or spicy rather than sweet. For example, he ate every savory morsel of a delectable stew at the dinner. Another example, the savory and sweet smell of pumpkin soup greeted them as they went through the door.
Seasoned.
Having had salt, pepper, herbs, or spices added. For example, he likes to eat spaghetti, which was seasoned with garlic. Another example, toss the meat in seasoned soup.
Sharp.
Having an edge or point that is able to cut or pierce something. For example, slice carrots on a cutting board, using a sharp knife. Another example, lemons have a sharp taste.
Smoky.
Marked by or emitting or filled with smoke. For example, this wine has a slightly smoky flavor. Another example, the ham had a smoky flavor.
Sour.
Having an acid taste like lemon or vinegar. For example, the sauce tasted very sour. Another example, the fruits were too sour to eat.
Spicy.
Having an agreeably pungent taste. For example, the ginger gives the dish a wonderful spicy flavor. Another example, the ramen tasted mildly spicy.
Stale.
No longer fresh and pleasant to eat, hard, musty, or dry. For example, this cheese is going stale. Another example, the room smelled of stale sweat and coffee.
Sugary.
Containing much sugar. For example, for sugary desserts, avoid syrupy puddings or ice creams. Another example, a steady diet of soft, sugary foods will only make matters worse.